Okay, so let's talk about what all narcissists will do to trap you, to ensnare you into their little web, their toxic web. All right, so number one, of course, they all start off with love bombing. So even if it's a business relationship, which is one that I had to deal with, and it was literally one of the worst things I ever had to deal with in my entire life. So, sometimes it's called other things, but, love bombing is the main thing that you hear it called. This is when they come on, they're super charming. They really know how to turn it on. They're really, really great at reading people. They've spent their entire lives figuring out what they need to do to manipulate you, to ensnare you, to get you into their little web, to get you into their lair and get you where they want you to be so that you can start giving them that narcissistic supply that they so desperately crave, which is anything that feeds their ego. Remember, they have no inner sense of value. So the only way that they can feel any sense of value is from the external sources. So they love bomb you. They tell you what you want to hear. Basically, they're super charming, super charismatic, and they manipulate you that way. So whether it's a business relationship, which is if it's in business, they have the perfect client, they have the perfect set of skills that you want. If it's a romantic relationship, they're the soulmate that you've been waiting for. I mean, they really, really, really know how to turn on the charm. So love bombing is definitely one of the ways that they trap you. Number two is future faking. So they promise you the world. Everything is going to be amazing. It's going to be the best business ever. It's going to be the best life that you've ever had. Everything is going to be exactly what you've always wanted it to be. And, as I said, they really know how to study people. They know how to read people. They know how to say exactly what it is that you want to hear. And they return to these things, by the way, when they need to use them. These are part of their arsenal of tricks. So they go back to the love bombing. They go back to the future faking when they need to, if they've messed up or if they have done something that they're kind of going to be caught, or if they've been devaluing you, or if they've been caught in a lie, or they've been ghosting you, or whatever it is that they've been doing, so that it's a way to project and deflect their behavior in order for you to not dwell or see what it is that they have been doing. And, I have a whole video on this, by the way, if you want to check it out. But I want you to remind yourself that they are fakers by putting fakers down in the comments so that you don't get caught in the trap of being taken in when they try to do this to you, because they will, I promise. So put fakers down in the comments right now. All right. So another thing that they will do to trap you is they will actually start devaluing you. And then they will do that, especially kind of on your way out. You'll be on your way out. You will think that you're kind of finally getting out of this relationship, and they'll actually start to devalue you so that you can't really get out. They'll be like, oh, that lawyer that you're picking, not very good. That situation that you're getting into, really stupid idea. So it's actually a way to trap you into staying where you are. When I say devaluing, it's a way to trap you, but it actually is a way to trap you into staying where you are, because the decisions that you're making to leave, they're going to say aren't smart. So it's a way of getting you to question what it is that you're doing so that you now have to stay, because obviously they know better. And so you kind of start thinking like they're the smartest people in the world. Nobody else knows how to make decisions like they do. And I can tell you that when I was practicing law and representing people like who had been victims of narcissistic abuse, it was frustrating for me as the attorney, because a lot of times people would think, oh, but they really know better. And you'd have to kind of help them to kind of unwind that thinking of, well, they actually do know better. And even though they would know that they're liars, that they devalued, that they'd been abused by them, they would still often think that they did know better, that they are smarter. And, so unwinding a lot of that it takes some time sometimes. So anyway, so they devalue you on the way out. So number 4 is isolate you. They make you emotionally dependent on them. They break you down so that they can often be the one to make you feel better. It's also a very sick cycle. Hurt you, make you feel terrible, make you cry, so that they can actually be the one to console you. Also horrible, horrible cycle. Very sick. They want them sometimes to be the only one that you can depend on. So they really isolate you so that you have no family, no friends, but then you can't really even depend on them either. So totally isolate you. That's number 4. Number 5 is that they triangulate. Again, it's a way to isolate you, but they have like these flying monkeys so that you feel like no one else thinks like you, or everyone else is lining up against you and for them. Everyone else is saying this, or no one else believes you with this, and that's sort of like a narcissist smear campaign thing. I actually do have a whole video on the signs of a narcissist smear campaign, which you can definitely check that out as well. Number 6 is they withhold. They don't tell you things. They don't show you things. They don't give you information. That's another way to trap you. You feel stuck. Number 7, of course, is gaslighting. It's just a way to make you think that you're crazy, a way to question your own mind. Reality, but they just straight up tell you that reality is not reality. It's just a way to weaken and destabilize you so that you can't think straight. You have like trauma brain. It's especially difficult in negotiations, which is why I do what I do for a living. And I created my entire Slay program, and I help you with all the things that I do. Number 8 is project and deflect. Going back to what I was talking about before, you question them. You say, you lied about this. You didn't do what you were supposed to do, or you did this and you weren't supposed to. You catch them in a lie, or you catch them doing something and they say, no, I didn't do that, or somebody else did that, or whatever. They blame it on other people, or they say, oh, why are we dwelling on this? Let's just move to the future. Whatever it is that they need to do to just get you off of it at that time, because they just want to trap you into the situation of now. And then number 9 is, of course, just straight up lie, because they are liars. I mean, it's how do you know that they're lying? Because their lips are moving. I mean, they lie about things they don't even need to lie about, which is really always very puzzling to me. That is one of the easiest ways to create leverage against narcissists, by the way. And in my Slay program, I teach all of that. Slay stands for strategy, leverage, anticipating, and focusing on you. And in the leverage part of the program, I do teach about how to use their lies against them. And it's so easy because they do lie all the time. Sometimes their lying can look like passive aggression. They do use like a passive aggression form of lying, especially the covert narcissists, which are one of the forms of narcissism that I absolutely detest the most, because it's like the stealthiest form of narcissism in a lot of ways. I had to deal with 2 of them. So yeah. So let's talk about the tactics that narcissists use to manipulate and punish their victims. So the first thing that they do to even be able to be put in a position of being able to manipulate and punish their victims is they love bomb. And I talk a lot more about love bombing in my video on love bombing, so check that out if you want. But really what it is they are extremely charismatic. One of the hallmarks of narcissists is they are very likable to the outside world. They're like the greatest salesmen on earth in a lot of ways. They are extremely intelligent. They are masters at reading people. So right from the beginning, they are reading you to see how they can best kind of worm their way into your lives and put themselves in a position to be able to do things like this. Because it's not like they come along being abusive. You would never have gotten into that relationship with them if they just came on that way. They come off seeming perfect for you. And even when you're not in a romantic relationship with these people, maybe it's just a business relationship, they still come off as if they were like a gift from heaven. Like you can't even believe how wonderful this person is. You know, if it's in business, they are the perfect business partner for you. They have all the right contacts. They can make all the right introductions. They can put you in incredible places, and you will elevate your career by being with them. So that's that. And then, you know, if it's a romantic relationship, obviously they're perfect for you in every way. They have the perfect job. They take care of you. They say how amazing you are. If you're a guy, you're the most handsome thing they've ever seen, a total Adonis. If you are a woman, then you're the most beautiful woman they've ever seen. They can't believe how perfect you are for them. They've never had another soulmate like this. They've never even been in love before until you came along. I mean, whatever they need to say in order to suck you in to be. And so that's really one of the first ways that they manipulate and punish to start being even in a position to manipulate and punish their victims is that love bomb stage. The next thing that you'll notice, and these are in no particular order at all, but one of the ways that they manipulate and punish their victims is by ghosting them. So now all of a sudden you can't get in touch with them. You know, they've been texting you for days on end, 20,000 times a day. And now when you want to call them out on something, or you want them for something, or you need them for something, now all of a sudden they can't be found. They aren't there. And then when you question them on it, it was, oh, I was busy. How dare you? I'm working, or something like that. Or if you're calling them out on something that, you know, maybe that, you know, you are questioning them on, maybe they're speaking to somebody else that they shouldn't be, they've been particularly flirty or something like that, then, you know, they'll start ghosting you. Like they'll just totally ignore you. And that's one of the ways that they punish their victims. And if you want to know more about ghosting, check out my 101 series, my Narcissism 101 series. I have tons of videos in there about all the different terminology that you need to know, and ghosting is one of those videos, so we'll make sure that we drop a link to that below as well. Another thing that they will try to do is they will start trying to make you jealous. And, you know, sometimes this is called triangulation. Sometimes they just are lining up flying monkeys to be against you, but they're talking to other people. They're trying to make it seem like they have a better relationship with other people, or these other people are better than you in some way. They're starting to put you down. They're starting this like little subtle devaluing starts. And if you want to know more about devaluing, check out my video on devaluing. But this is where the subtle devaluing starts, where you start to go, gosh, you know, that didn't feel right. That didn't seem right. And a lot of times, especially with covert narcissists, and there's a whole bunch more on this in my video on the covert passive-aggressive narcissists, who are my personal ones that I hate the most because I've had to deal with them in my own life and fell prey to a couple of them in my own life, which I never will again because I know so much about narcissism now. But one of the things that they do is like these little subtle drip, drip, drip things that are so small that you like, do I even say anything about this? Or maybe I'm making too much of it. Maybe I'm just going crazy. It's oftentimes death by 1,000 cuts where you just think, well, that didn't seem right. Or maybe they are just, talking to this person because they have a work relationship with them, or because they're trying to build a better relationship with our neighbors or our friends. And maybe I am making too much of it. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. Or maybe I'm being overly jealous, or, you start questioning yourself as to whether or not you're kind of blowing it out of proportion, because that's what they'll try to make it seem like you're doing, is blowing it out of proportion. And the next thing that they do to manipulate and punish their victims is gaslighting. And I have a whole video on gaslighting. And this is something that all narcissists do. And they do it, by the way, not just to you, but they kind of gaslight everybody. And that is, it's a huge way that they get along in the world. And that is like, even though you're looking at evidence and you see facts of something, they basically, and what conversation you had, they make it seem like that's not what you're seeing, that's not what you're looking at, that's not what you heard, that's not how it went down, you're remembering it wrong, you are taking something out of context, you are, even if you have an email or something. I mean, this is one of the things that happened in my relationship with one of the narcissists I was dealing with. It was, even though I had an email that said, this is what the conversation was, and mine was in a business setting, the person came back and was like, oh, we talked about this, and you agreed to blah, blah, blah. And even though the email didn't even say that, but, they just will say, well, but that's a conversation that we had, or whatever. You agreed to that. And of course, it's something you would never agree to. But, you start to slowly lose your mind. And that's what happens with gaslighting. You just are starting to slowly lose your mind. And if this is exactly what you have seen in your relationship with the narcissist, I want to see an exactly in the comments. Just give me the word exactly in the comments. And the next thing that they do is they go straight from degrading and insulting you to love bombing you again. And sometimes this is called hoovering. And it's especially, you see this like during the birth of the smear campaign, during the discard phase, whether you're discarding or they're discarding. And sometimes they start this long before the actual discard happens, because they're either expecting you to discard them eventually, or they're expecting to discard you eventually. But they go from this heinous beast of a string of insults and the gaslighting and the intimidation tactics and all of these manipulation tactics that, I talked about, the passive aggressiveness, on and on and on, to, oh, but, we've always been able to get along, we can work this out, or even if it's we can come to an agreement, when you're in the middle of a divorce, all of a sudden, they become your best friend. All of a sudden, things are happening that are completely confusing you. And they do that, again, to manipulate you, because they want to get you away from your lawyer, or they want to get you away from your therapist, or they want to get you away from whoever it is that they think now has some other form of control over you. And why do they do that? First, yes, of course, they want you to do what they want you to do. But it all comes back to narcissistic supply, which is the holy grail for narcissists. Everything they do is driven by that narcissistic supply. It's like the rat in the maze that's going for that cheese. That's exactly what they're going for all the time. And one of the things I say about narcissists is, even though they are absolutely the most horrible people to deal with on the planet, they are actually very simple to understand. And once you get them, once you figure out that everything that they're doing is to keep as much narcissistic supply as they can possibly get, and you're just part of that scheme and you're part of that manipulation, and if you are in their zone of world and you even could possibly continue to be a source of supply, they're going to keep you around. So when you're going to negotiate with the narcissist, that's one of the things that you need to remember the most, is that everything that they do is driven by narcissistic supply. So this is by no means a comprehensive list of all of the things that they do to manipulate and punish their victims. I mean, certainly in a divorce setting, they do all kinds of things like weaponize the court system, use children as pawns, ignore court orders, ignore requests to produce, not produce financial documents, on and on and on. Intimidation, threats of violence, lying, stalking, all kinds of things I've seen in the divorce cases, which they do even in dissolution of business settings or dissolution of business partner settings. They act the same way that they do in regular life, only on steroids and 1,000 times worse. It's no secret that narcissists are pathological liars and that they're gaslighting all the time. And why do they do that? Because they have no sense of self. They don't feel any internal sense of value, so they have to suck all their value from the people and environment around them, and they do that by pathologically lying and doing things that they need to do in order to control people. And they have all kinds of favorite control tactics and manipulation tactics. And if you want to know what their favorite manipulation and punishment tactics are, check out my video on the narcissist's favorite manipulation and punishment tactics. But there are many, too many to really encompass all in one video, which is why I have an entire channel devoted to this particular topic, which also is devoted to help give you step-by-step guidance on how to get out of these relationships. I've seen it so much in my law practice. I've had to deal with them in my personal life. They get narcissistic supply by anything that feeds their ego, which, could be anything that feeds anybody's ego, like compliments and respect and things like that. But most often where they get their supply is by the things that they do, by lying, manipulating, intimidating, making people feel afraid, gaslighting, smear campaigns, all of those things that they do. And lying is one of the things that they do because they don't want you to see what you think you're seeing, which is that this person is a liar, that this person is not who they say they are. So it's this constant game of smoke and mirrors to try to get you to not see what they don't want you to see, which is that inside they're a scared little creature that has no sense of self, that you are actually the stronger one. You are actually the one that has more power, that has more value from their perspective. I mean, all human beings have value, inherent value, but they don't feel it, and so they don't want you to feel it either. They are extremely petty. And they live in a world of scarcity, not abundance. And so lying is a way of life for them. Now, honestly, they lie about things that they don't even need to lie about, which is kind of crazy to me. And they also lie about things that aren't very easily verifiable sometimes. And then they tell you that you're not seeing what you're seeing, which is what gaslighting is. There are certain types of lies that they specifically say to you throughout your relationship. So these are kind of like the most common. I'm sure that there's a lot of others, but these are the most common. So the first one is, ironically and paradoxically, no one is more truthful than me. You're going to never find anyone who's more truthful, more honest, has more integrity than me. I always tell the truth. I always tell it like I see it. And they say it with such confidence that you believe them, at least early on. My dad used to say, whatever you say it with authority and people will believe you. And narcissists have taken that to an extreme. So they say things even though, you see their lips moving and you know that you've seen a text message or you've had a situation where you know that they're lying. Even if you specifically say, here's an email where you said this, it's very clear that you're lying. They'll say, no, that's not true. That's not how it went. That's not what's happening, which is a form of gaslighting, by the way. But the first thing that they will say is, no one is more truthful than I am. The second thing that they say is some form of, I love you, I care about you, I'm here for you. And if you want to know more about what a narcissist means when they say, I love you, and what they don't mean when they say, I love you, check out my video on what does a narcissist mean when they say, I love you. When they are saying, I love you, I care about you, I'm here for you, it's not that that's what they actually feel, because true narcissists have no ability, no capacity to feel anything for anyone else. They just lack that synapse. It's like missing from their makeup. From their brain, it's just broken and it can't be fixed. They cannot truly love another person. They cannot truly care about another person. And they certainly don't want to be there for anybody else. They only want what they can get out of you. And so they will say these things sometimes to get you to do what they want you to do, or think what they want you to think, or get off of whatever it is that you're on them about, just to, say what they need to say. Sometimes it's a form of future faking. And if you want to know more about future faking, you should definitely check out my video on that. But, they don't really love you. They're not really there for you, and they don't care about you. And you can tell that because their actions speak louder than words. Try getting sick and expecting a narcissist to actually care about you and be there for you. I mean, if you're lucky, they just don't feel anything. Most of the time, what they really do is they resent you. They resent the fact that you might want care or attention or something from them, because that means that you're not paying attention to them. And there's not enough to go around in their world, like they're very scarcity minded. So if you want something, that means they can't have it. The second thing is, I love you, I care about you, I'm there for you. The third one is, I'm sorry, or things will be different. And, I call it narcissist faux apologies. And if you want to know more about, what a faux apology is, check out my video on what a narcissist really is doing when they say, I'm sorry. But most of the time, narcissists really don't even say sorry. But if they do, it's definitely to manipulate you, to try to get something out of you. It might just be lip service, and because it's in front of somebody and they want the person, the third party, to see it. It may be just to shut you up. It may be kind of even more like a sarcastic apology. I'm sorry that I couldn't be better for you, or something like that, but they really don't mean it. There's never any real remorse for their actions. So when they say I'm sorry, it's definitely a lie, unfortunately. And if you think that their lies are so sad and so pathetic, I want to see a "so sad" in the comments. Just drop that below. So sad. So the fourth lie that they often tell is I promise. I promise I'll do better. I promise that I will be the most amazing spouse, husband, wife, business partner, mother, father, sister, brother, neighbor, whatever it is. Nobody is going to be better than me. I'm the best at whatever it is. So I promise that the way things are going to be are the most amazing things in the world. And again, this is a form of future faking. And it's basically a future that they know they're never going to make good on. They're never going to follow through with these promises. And they just want to say whatever they want to say just to get you to do what they want you to do at that moment, or feel the way they want you to feel right at that moment, which is that they're wonderful, you're the one who has the problem, or that, you know, however, whatever it is that you have a problem with them right now about, it's not going to be that way in the future. So just like, you know, get off of it. Let's just deflect it, deny it, move on. So I promise. That's the fourth lie that you often hear from a narcissist. And the last common lie that you often hear from a narcissist is, it's not my fault. I didn't do it. Or if I did, it was because somebody else had a problem. Somebody else didn't follow through on what they were supposed to do. It's your fault. You know, I could have done it except for you getting in my way. But for whatever reason, it's not their fault. So let's talk about that narcissist's most dangerous lie. They lie about everything, right? Narcissists lie as a way of life. They lie about all kinds of stuff, including things that they don't need to lie about, which is kind of baffling to me. And they even lie about things that are readily verifiable, which is also kind of baffling to me. And if you want to know more about, specifically about narcissist lies, I would highly recommend that you check out my video called Narcissists' Most Common Lies. And I actually do have an accompanying podcast to that too. So for those of you who like to get your information in different kinds of mediums, I do have a podcast. It's on every single outlet where you can find podcasts, and it's called Negotiate Your Best Life. And you can check out that show on Narcissists' Most Common Lies there too. But going back to what the most dangerous lie is, it is not what you think. It's not like, what are they saying that's so dangerous? It's more how it lands for you. And that's why it's so dangerous. And that is the lie that you desperately want to believe. And the reason why that is so dangerous is because they are constantly packaging their lies in a way that you will believe, that you want to believe, that might be plausible, that seems real, that allows you to ignore those red flags that may be going up in your head. And if you want to know more about why people ignore narcissist red flags, I highly recommend you check out my video on that. Anyway, you will be getting these lies, and you're realizing something is off, and you see something, you know, maybe you see a text message come through that doesn't seem right, and you confront them on it. And they have some plausible explanation for it. Or it might not even be all that plausible. But you're just like, you know what? I want to believe this person. I want to believe that my whole life is not a lie. I want to believe that this person actually loves me. I want to believe that I'm not in business with a shark, with somebody who is awful. I mean, they don't seem terrible all the time. Sometimes they seem good. And so you end up processing something in a way that ends up, maybe they get away with their lie because you want to believe it so desperately. And that can happen in a number of different ways. So one of the ways that they package their lies so that you will believe it, which becomes dangerous for you, is something called future faking. And what happens there is that they say, yeah, you know what, this happened, but in the future, here's what life is going to look like. So if it's in business, I'm going to start participating. I'm going to generate all these sales. I'm going to do all this stuff. I'm taking the lead on this particular effort, whatever it is. And then they don't ever do it. And that's future faking. But in that moment, you really, really want to believe it. Same thing if it's in a romantic relationship. You know, you get that text message, or you see that thing happen, or they didn't show up for something, or they didn't do something they were supposed to. They didn't get you the birthday gift they were supposed to. They didn't take care of your kids the way they were supposed to, or blew off your mother, or whatever it is. And you call them out on it, and there you go having a conversation, which is, you know, that's never going to happen again. Let's forget about the past. Let's just think about the future. Let's just take it from here forward, because from now on, you are going to feel appreciated. You will get everything you deserve. You are the best at everything. And whatever comes out of their mouth that they have to say in that moment for you to believe them. And, you know, for a variety of reasons, sometimes you just want to believe them. So you do. And so more time goes by. And now you're investing more of your life and more of your time and more of your energy into this person. And the more you invest, the more you want it to work, the more you want to believe the lies. And if you just think that they are such liars, give me a liars in the comments. Okay, so the next reason why the way they package their lies is through gaslighting. And gaslighting is something that they use to try to make you think that you're crazy. And if you want to know more about gaslighting, check out my video on narcissists' favorite gaslighting techniques. But they use gaslighting to try to make you think that you're crazy. So, and I've mentioned this before, but I haven't mentioned it in a while, so I'll mention it again for those of you who don't know. It actually comes from this old movie called Gaslight, and I think it was even a play before that, and then it became a movie, and it was like from the 30s or 40s, where the husband was trying to make the wife think that she was crazy. So he would blow out these gas lights throughout the house, and she would say, wasn't that just lit? And he would say, no, it wasn't. And she would then, you know, he was hoping that she would lose her mind. And that's what happens with narcissists. They start to gaslight you. They start to say things that are different than what was said before, or to try to make you believe that something happened that didn't happen, or something did happen that didn't happen, you know, and they just rewrite reality. So, you know, I had a client one time who the ex-wife, the narcissistic ex-wife, threatened to call the authorities on him if he picked up the child at a certain time or something, a time that he was entitled to pick up the child. But she said, if you do, I'm calling the authorities. So he emails her back and says, you know, I really don't appreciate you threatening to call the cops on me, and this is exactly why I want this, this, and this done. And I want you to sign this agreement. Well, now She doesn't want to sign this agreement. She doesn't want to do these other things that he wants her to do. So she turns around to try to use it against him in a way and say, hey, I never said I was going to call the cops. I said I was going to call the authorities, which is something different. And you know darn well that when she said I'm calling the authorities, she meant the cops. But there's a perfect opportunity for her, or a perfect example of gaslighting. So now she's saying that's not what I meant. And so, he's supposed to go, oh, what did you mean? I wasn't that? Okay. And then now you're having a conversation about that. A perfect example of gaslighting. But there's a type of lie. Gaslighting is a type of lie that you might want to believe, where they're saying now something different than what they said before, but you want to believe it because you don't want to believe that you are so wrong. I mean, a lot of times we want to believe it because we don't want to have to admit that we've been in a relationship with someone who is so horrible to us, who's so untrustworthy, who's so dishonest. We don't want to have to believe that ourselves. We don't want to have to think, oh my gosh, how could I have been so stupid or whatever? But just remember that narcissists are master manipulators. They're very good at reading people. They're very good at figuring out what it is that you want in the beginning. So you can't beat yourself up over that. So that's the most dangerous lie. The most dangerous lie is the one that you want to believe. And when you were getting ready to negotiate with a narcissist in any situation, business or personal or divorce or whatever, there is also an example of a dangerous lie, because you might want to believe that they sincerely want to negotiate with you, that they sincerely want to settle the case, that they sincerely want to make it right and have it be something that's amicable, when they don't actually. When they are actually behind your back, stabbing your back, doing things to you, and then they say they're not. You want to believe that. And that's where it can be very, very dangerous as well. Okay, so the first thing I want you to know is that they all love bomb, okay? So what this means is that they're lying to you right from the beginning, whether it's in a romantic relationship or a business relationship or whatever kind of a relationship. They want you to think that they're amazing or perfect right from the beginning. And I actually was in a business relationship with a narcissist, so I saw this myself actually. And so they want you to think they're charming and incredible right from the get-go. So they'll say things like, oh my God, where have you been all my life? I can't believe how perfect we are for each other. And we're made for each other. We just align so perfectly in our beliefs. So, those are the kinds of things that they'll tell right from the beginning. We're soulmates. We're made for each other. We're perfect for each other. So that's number one, the love bomb kind of lie. Number one. Number two is the future fake kind of lie. So the future fake kind of lie is, it's never going to happen again. So this is when they've been caught in a lie. They want to deflect. They want to project. They don't want you to be dwelling on their bad behavior, their past behavior. So they want a future fake. They want you to not look at whatever they've done. They want you to look to the future. So it's kind of a love bomb, but you've already been in the relationship. So they just don't want you to be looking at whatever it is that they've done. They just want you to just move on to whatever it is. They have no intention on keeping their promise at all, but they just want you to not think about whatever they've done in the past. So they'll say whatever they need to get you to not think about the past. It's kind of, love bomb 2.0. All right. The future fake is love bomb 2.0. So it's never going to happen again. You'll never see it again. let's just move on, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So that's the next kind of lie that all narcissists tell. The next one is, you can trust me. I mean, they'll act like they're the most trustworthy people on the planet. I'm a Boy Scout. I'm a Girl Scout. I actually heard that those exact words come out of my former business partner's mouth. 100% those words. All right. That's number 3. Number 4 is the blame game. It's all your fault. It's all their fault. Someone else's fault. It's always someone else's fault. This is the project and deflect. They can never take responsibility for any of their own actions. It's never anyone else's fault. Somehow they seem to think that if they shift the blame, that they're not, people won't see that it's their fault. I don't know. Number 5 is the gaslighting. The gaslighting, you're too sensitive, or I never said that. I definitely saw that in the business relationship that I was in. We talked about that. Don't you remember? That sort of thing. That's the next kind of lie that all narcissists tell, is the gaslighting lie. The next kind of lie that you hear all narcissists tell is the no one else thinks that, or everyone else thinks that, the kind of lie that they try to do to try to isolate you from everyone else to make you feel really, really bad. If you want to know more about this kind of lie, go check out my video on the narcissist's favorite catchphrases. Definitely a whole lot more in that particular video. And you'll get to hear more about that sort of thing. And if you agree with me so far, if this sounds super familiar, give me an amen in the comments below, because this is sounding really familiar so far, right? The next one is the I'll change, I'm different now. You've heard that one before too. Don't fall for it. Definitely not true. Narcissists really can't change. They don't really have the ability to change. I mean, some do. It's pretty rare. So I wouldn't sit around and hold out hope that that can definitely happen, because it's probably not going to happen. So that's number 7, is the big lie. Narcissists really can't change. The next one, the last one, is usually about their exes. The ex was obsessed with me, or their ex was super crazy. There's usually some kind of lie around their exes. I would be really, really careful when they're saying things about their exes, either that they were obsessed with them or that they're super crazy in some way. Maybe some kind of red flag around that. Maybe they actually were crazy or obsessed with them, but maybe not. So I don't know. I'm wondering what you guys think about this list so far. If you agree with me, or if there's any other, lies that you guys have seen. I'm sure that there's so many more, but this is how we catch them in these lies, right? This is how we use this to create leverage, by the way. 6 top lies all narcissists want you to believe. They think you're buying this stuff, right? They think you're buying it because they're so charming and they're so charismatic, and they come on with their love bombing, and they come on with their thing, and they've got their lines and their stealth and their manipulation. They think that you're buying this stuff right from the beginning. We do. We do. I fell for it too. I did too. You know why? Because they're that good. They start figuring this stuff out at an early age. How that book, The Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell, where he talks about it takes 10,000 hours to become a master at something, to become really good at something. What 10,000 hours is? It's like 4 years. I mean, it's not like that long. Narcissists have been working on figuring out their craft since they were kids. This is survival for them. So they know how to read people. They're very good at this. But once you're onto them, you're onto them. So don't worry about that. I got you covered. And by the way, if you are negotiating with narcissists, you definitely want to grab my free Crush My Negotiation Prep worksheet. free 15-page ebook at crushmydeal.com. Make sure you grab that, crushmydeal.com. I've had many thousands of people win their entire negotiations just on that, crushmydeal.com. Go grab that. So, number one top lie that all narcissists want you to believe: you can be vulnerable with me. You can share all your inner secrets with me. Tell me all your innermost secrets. Yeah, you can share them all with me. And guess what? Guess when you're going to hear them again? When they want to hurt you, you will be hearing them absolutely again. They're going to shift it all around. They're going to use them against you in court. They're going to use them against you in negotiations. They're going to tell whoever they want. They're going to throw them back in your face. They're going to say, you can't even do this. You can't even do that. You're so weak. You're this, you're that. Oh, 100%. I mean, because they have no conscience. That's the problem with you. You can be vulnerable with me. It's so against you in negotiations. They're going to tell whoever they want. They're going to throw them back in your face. They're going to say, you can't even do this. You can't even do that. You're so weak. You're this, you're that. Oh, 100%. I mean, because they have no conscience. That's the problem with you. You can be vulnerable with me. It's so against you in negotiations. They're going to tell whoever they want. They're going to throw them back in your face. They're going to say, you can't even do this. You can't even do that. You're so weak. You're this, you're that. Oh, 100% of being wife beaters, child beaters, all sorts of things. They don't care sometimes, depending on the level of narcissism. They don't care. You can be vulnerable with me. That's one of the lies that narcissists will tell you. They want you to believe. Number two, you can count on me. Oh, yeah, sure. Narcissists hate you needing them. That's like the last thing they want, is for you to like actually want to count on them. They don't want to have to be there for you. They don't want you to like be sick around them. They don't want you to need them in any way, shape, or form, because when you go back for some withdrawals on your deposits, you just doing things for them is just payment for being in their space. If you want anything back in return, then the payment is high. It may be like 1,000-fold for the most minuscule scrap. And then you'll hear about it for years on end that they actually did something for you. I mean, please. Yeah, you can count on me. Number three, everything. One of the lies that they tell, we're going through the lies that all narcissists want you to believe. They want you to believe that everything in their life is your fault or your problem. All their problems, or all the things that go wrong, all the failures, everything that bad that ever happened in the house or at the office or wherever it is that you have them in your environment or whatever, is your fault. Everything is your fault. That's number three. They project and deflect. They lie and deny. That is the number one agenda. Project and deflect, lie and deny. The four top agendas, depending on how you want to look at that. But it's just not them. And if you've seen any of these things so far, give me a totally in the comments. I'd love to see what you guys think. Give me a totally in the comments if you guys have seen any of these things so far. Number four of the top lies all narcissists want you to believe is, I will change, or I have changed. You're going to see everything is different. You know, this is the big old future fake. This is whether you're dealing with them at work or in a marriage or a relationship. You catch them in a situation, or, you know, something happens and you go to marriage counseling. then everything is going to be different now, that sort of thing. I've changed, I will change, everything is different. I feel like it's almost like they're holding their breath, holding on tight for a period of time because it's like, how long do I have to engage in this charade until I can go back to being my normal self and let out my breath? And then once they do, hell hath no fury, because they go right back to being the way they used to be, and then worse, because sometimes they want to make you pay. They're angry, resentful, and upset that you made them do these things that they didn't want to do in the first place. It's not even worth the I've changed, I will change little phase a lot of the time. So that's number 4. Number 5, 5 lie all narcissists tell, they want you to believe, is I would never lie. I would never lie. I cannot tell a lie. I'm the most truthful person you would ever meet. I have so much integrity. I would never lie. I tell the truth all the time. This is the person who tells the most lies of all people, constantly are catching them in lies. And, you know, the truth bears out. It bears out very quickly. You can tell if a person is a person of their word by how they behave, how they conduct themselves. Are they following through with what they say they're going to do? How does that happen? Did they say they were going to do something and then actually go through with it? You know, you'll see, right? So that's number 5. And most of the time they don't. And that's when that becomes your leverage, by the way. That's a big piece of your leverage, which is a good thing. I know a lot of times people are like, oh, they lied and I hated that and they got away with it. How are they getting away with this? But they don't get away with it because becomes your leverage. Every time I would see a narcissist lying, I'd be thinking, thank you. I get to use this against you now. Okay, so that's number 5. Number 6, no one loves you like I do. No one loves you like I do. This is such a huge lie. And they do this a lot of times to isolate you from family, to isolate you from friends. They don't want you to have other people in their lives. So they're jealous. They get upset if you spend time with other people. They become resentful a lot of times, raging if you spend time with other people. Sometimes they even have tantrums if you spend time with other people, and it can be quite upsetting. Sometimes you even have to make choices. Covert narcissists, they use this secret weapon against you to make you think that you're crazy. Well, covert narcissists are incredibly convincing. They're incredibly convincing. I think they're the most dangerous type of narcissist. Okay. I think they're the most dangerous because they are so convincing. They're the ones out there looking like the most normal. Other types of narcissists, grandiose narcissists, are out there telling everybody how amazing they are, how great they are, how wonderful they are. They're the ones out there that go in restaurants or go into a room and say, I did this and I did that, and look at my accomplishments and look how amazing I am. Covert narcissists don't do that. Covert narcissists say, oh, I don't want attention. I hate attention, even though they do want attention, even though they do want the world to think that they're wonderful and all of that. And so they do have this deep need, wanting, the world to think that they're amazing. And the reason why they are incredibly convincing in a lot of ways is that they also believe their own made up reality of themselves. They've also almost kind of convinced themselves that they are honest and trustworthy and loyal and considerate. And they genuinely believe a lot of that, even as they're gaslighting people and as they're taking advantage of people and as they're doing these things, victimizing people. And that's part of the reason why they're so insidious and very, very stealth, and they present very well, and they put themselves in positions where they are often clergy or doctors or lawyers, or they're the first ones to show up when somebody is sick, or the first ones to take care, but only if it's opportunistic, only if there's going to be an audience, only if it's the right type of audience. Only if the scenario presents itself to be the right one. They have to appear in the right way. And they're masters at orchestrating situations, a lot of times where they can pit people against each other, where they can dig deep wells where it looks like they are the good person and the other person is bad, or they set themselves up so that they're calm and the other person is crazy. So here they are, the rational one, and the other person is out of control, sobbing or screaming, and they're just, I don't know what happened there, officer, while the onlookers are, oh my goodness, I look at that, so they can be the ones who are, I tried for years to get the person help, or I tried for years to do all that I could, and they come off as the likable one. They come off as the calm one. They come off as the charming one in marriage counseling, or, to the therapists as the much more rational and calm one. And they can get everyone to believe that that's what's going on. They're masters at smear campaigns and at planting seeds, starting the planting of seeds. Oh, I'm so concerned about, how much they had to drink that night. I just, I'm just really concerned about that situation. I just want to make sure that everybody's okay. Oh, my heart. It's like that. And just lining up the flying monkeys and just starting to groom. And so those are the kinds of things that they'll do. And they start to weave. They start to weave and lead people down these paths. And people are just unaware of what they're doing. They're just unaware of what's happening because they're so good at doing these things and just remaining calm. And so their real secret weapon, and that's what I'm leading to here, is that they are masters, absolute masters of plausible deniability. And what I mean by that is sabotaging and undermining in very, very subtle, insidious ways, but then being able to just look very, very innocent and saying, I don't know what you're talking about. I have no idea. And, so for example, something could be like, I only said something about, I knew somebody said something about their child's birthday or something, and realizing that it was before a date that was something that was going to be inflammatory to something else. And then they putting dates together that are, is going to upset something to somebody else. And then the other person realizes that that's upsetting to this other person. And then they know that it's going to be upsetting to this other person. But then they go, oh, I didn't realize that I said that date and that was going to be upsetting to you. And then the other person, goes, oh, I didn't know. I didn't realize, and they just play it off as if they didn't realize that date was going to be upsetting. I had no idea. I didn't realize. I'm sorry. I didn't realize, that sort of thing. They'll make a dish and give it to the other person, and the dish has something in it that the person is allergic to, like cashews. And then the other person gets an allergic reaction from it. And then they say, I didn't realize it had cashews in it. Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh my gosh, that's terrible. Oh, God, I didn't realize that. They did realize that, but they play it off like they didn't know. Plausible deniability. I'm sorry, I didn't realize that when I was going to do something on your computer that was going to delete that off of your computer and off your calendar. So I'm so stupid. That sort of thing. And they do know that when they were going to do that I was going to delete it off your calendar. Plausible deniability. Undermining you, but acting like I didn't know that was going to happen, to avoid taking responsibility, but everybody else, when you tell that story, everybody else goes, well, I'm sure that was inadvertent because they're so nice, because they're such a good person. I'm sure that couldn't have been on purpose. Oh, you're making too much of it. That sort of thing. When you try to tell other people, I think you're just making too much. And then when they're telling other people, they go, I was just trying to be helpful. I was just trying to be nice. Gosh, do they really think that I would try to make them sick on purpose? That's just so crazy, that sort of thing. And sometimes I do believe they really believe their stuff. Like they really think that I would be that horrible of a person, and they start to even believe their own lies. Sometimes it actually is like that crazy making. And so I believe that the worst secret weapon that they have is this plausible deniability, where they actually start to make you think that you're absolutely crazy and the world cannot see it. The world cannot see it at all. And you are just, over time, it's like death by 1,000 cuts. And it's like not so bad that you just feel like you can go to the world and go, look, this person's beating me, or this person's cheating on me, or this person is that bad. It's these little tiny things over the years that just add up, where you're just sucks at your soul over time, and it drains the life out of you over time. And so that's why I think it's just so insidious and so horrible. And they have this way also of sort of this double language and this double, like saying things, these like kind of things that almost look like compliments, but they're not actually compliments. And it's very, very insidious the way covert narcissists work on you and work on your brain. And they're extremely, extremely toxic and extremely, extremely poisonous. Let's dive into 4 ways of how narcissists build trust. Number 1, they play on your emotions. They know what to do to read you. They don't feel anything for your emotions, but they know how to act like they feel for your emotions. So they start off by conditioning you. They start off by reading you. They start off by love bombing you. This is whether it's a business relationship or a personal relationship. By the way, I was in a business relationship with a narcissist, and they are chameleons. They know how to read you. They know how to become exactly what it is that you want. they're actually kind of becoming you in a way, right? Experts at becoming exactly what it is that you would want. So they make you feel like you are the most special, incredible, amazing human being on the planet. They say all the right things. They make you feel like, oh my gosh, the stars have aligned. They rock your world. Soulmates. Where have you been? This is unbelievable. They may even tell you that they love you before your first date, even if they don't mean it. But they say all of these things to try to gain your trust. They know what to do to appear trustworthy from the beginning. So they may even withhold information. Of course, they're not going to tell you the bad things about their past. For example, a great example of this is that mini series Dirty John, which I don't know if any of you might have seen that or heard it. It was a podcast initially, and then it was developed into a mini series. It was a true story, but that guy didn't tell the woman anything about his horrible past, where he had been in prison, all of these things. They're not going to tell you anything that might be bad, because they want to gain your trust. They want to gain your confidence. They take advantage of people. They use information that they've been told in confidence a lot of times. So, and lying, of course, they have no problem with that either, right? So they'll lie, they'll withhold information, they do whatever it is that they need to do to play on your emotions. Charm, charisma abounds. A lot of times they're pretty smooth. That's number one. They play on your emotions. They love bomb you. All right. So number two, second way that they build trust is they will make great first impressions. Once again, they will show up exactly the way that you present themselves, the way you want them to. Because again, they're really excellent at reading people. They've been doing this as a survival skill since the beginning of time, since they knew that this was something that they were going to have to do at the beginning. They'll be punctual if they usually are very well dressed, very well groomed. They know that first impressions are really important. So they start to build trust that way. Now, this doesn't last very long, because as soon as they've locked you in, as soon as they get to the next level, they don't respect your time at all. They'll start being late. They'll start being like, oh, you're so needy, all of that sort of thing. But in the beginning, right away, they make really great first impressions. They tell you how much they respect your time. They tell you how much they love your company. They tell you all of the right things, right? Super prepared. They'll even tell you being prepared is key. They'll even tell you how much integrity they have. They'll use words like integrity. They know how to be one step ahead. They'll show you how organized they are. All of those things, they'll do that to build trust. Again, it won't last, because as soon as they lock you in and as soon as they get to that next step, they won't continue to do that. And especially the covert narcissists, as soon as they get to that next step, one of the things they become is very passive aggressive. And I saw this in my business relationship with a covert narcissist. They'd agree to do things and then just not do them. That's a passive aggressive move, right? But great first impressions. Number three way that a narcissist builds trust is they're excellent liars. So they will lie about accomplishments, their intentions, their feelings, great with future faking. So they'll have lots and lots of conversations about all the things that they want in the future. It'll be all the same things that you want. So they're building trust that way as well, because you think, wow, this is exactly the same kind of future that I want to have. I feel like this is an amazing person. And they do that, of course, to make themselves look better. Again, it's a manipulation, because everything that a narcissist does is a manipulation. If you agree with me on that, put agree in the comments, because you have to remember that everything a narcissist does is a manipulation. Everything a narcissist does is a manipulation. Every time they try to love bomb you, every time they apologize to you, every time they try to do something good for you, it's a manipulation. Unfortunately, I mean, it is a spectrum. So obviously, there are times that maybe they feel some twinge of something, but if they're full blown narcissistic personality disorder, it's all a manipulation. Okay. So, number three is they're very good liars. That's the third way that narcissists build trust. So, that's number three. Number four, this is the last way that we're going over today that narcissists build trust. It is that they're really, really good at reading people. Really, really good at reading people. And this is because this is a survival skill that they had to develop very, very young in life, because they were exposed to a lot of trauma, and they felt like they had to survive. And in order to survive, in order to be able to manipulate people, they had to develop the skill of reading people. And, so I say to people all the time, Malcolm Gladwell talked about in his book Outliers that it takes 10,000 hours to achieve mastery. And I always say that 10,000 hours, if you're only doing it, putting in time for sleeping and eating and taking time off and having meals, and I guess I said eating already, but having a little bit of a life or something, it's like 4 years, right? Like the Beatles spent 4 years in Germany before like they became famous. And that's why they were already at like mastery level when they, became famous. And, they had, he had all these different examples in his book, right? Well, 4 years is nothing. By the time a narcissist is an adult, they've been doing this forever. They've achieved mastery many, many years before that. So they're really excellent at reading people. They're really excellent at doing exactly what they need to do to future fake, to make the promises, to manipulate, to say what they need to pretend like they have empathy, all the things that they need to do to say so that they can present themselves, like I said, as a chameleon, as mirroring you, as becoming whatever it is that they need to become to build that trust with you. Okay. So even though they have no intention of keeping their promises or whatever it is, they can make these huge, grandiose promises because they had to keep them anyway. So who cares? Right. But we, as their targets, their victims, whatever, sometimes we just want to believe them so badly, especially if you're really attached to this person. You keep going back because you if you love them, or you're in a relationship with them, or you have a life with this person, you're bonded, a lot of times trauma bonded. You think, hey, maybe this time is different, and so you keep going back there. And so that's how they build trust. A lot of times they use these tactics like guilt tripping and gaslighting, all the things, playing the victim, all of that, right? But they are very, very good at reading people. So they do whatever they need to do to get people to do what they want them to. And then, they push them away, push them away, push them away. And they'll even say, I don't want you anymore, blah, blah, blah. And then as you're finally, you had enough, they pull you back in, pull you back in. So they're very, 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 very good at reading people. And that's how narcissists build trust. They go hot and cold. It's so maddening. That's why you end up feeling completely drained. I've been there. That is why I'm on this mission. That is why I do what I do. It is literally the hardest, most horrible thing that you'll ever have to deal with in your life. And because I've been there, because I know how you feel, because I know that you're completely and utterly drained, I want to help you. I want you to get the help and support that you so desperately need, especially if you're having to negotiate with a narcissist. You cannot negotiate with a narcissist as you would a regular, reasonable person. You just simply can't. I know the 8 worst lies that narcissists want you to believe, and I'm going to share them with you here in this video, and I'm going to go through them, the worst ones to the most heinous ones in this video. So watch all the way till the end here so that you can know what the worst ones are. Okay, so let's go through them now. The 8th worst one, we'll just go like 8th to first, right? Is I'm not really like this, right? That's one of the things that they'll say, I'm not really like this. Now, you know that they're actually really like that, right? And they'll often try to gaslight you by telling you that they're not normally like this. They'll have a tantrum, or they'll go crazy, or they'll treat people poorly, or they'll do things that are awful, and or they'll be doing things that are horrible for a while, or they'll be super depressed, or whatever it is. They'll just say that they're going through a phase, that they're under a lot of stress, that it's somebody else's fault, that it's because of the things that they're going through at work, that they're acting crazy because of their ex or whatever it is. But they'll say that they're not really like this, especially if it's early on in the relationship, because they'll let you know that it's just something that they're dealing with right now. The truth is that they're very much like that. The truth is that they're actually way worse than what they're showing you most of the time, and that they're only revealing a little piece of the way that they really are. So that's the one of the lies that they want you to believe. The next one is that they'll let you know, one of the lies that they'll tell that they want you to believe, and this is a lie about you, is that you are the one that's overreacting. So that it's your behavior and not theirs. So this is a massive gaslight, by the way, massive gaslight. They'll say things like, you're overreacting, when you haven't even raised your voice yet. I didn't mean to hurt you, or it's not a big deal. Stop making such a big deal out of things. Or, you're being oversensitive, or, the truth is that their behavior is a big deal. The truth is that what they did was really horrible. They can be as awful as possible, and they'll say you're overreacting. They will have treated you in a heinous, horrible way, and you can be hurt and feeling horrible, and they'll say you're overreacting. You can have found text messages or photographs or seen them with other people or whatever, and they'll say you're overreacting. So those are the types of things that they will say, but that's a massive gaslight, basically erasing your feelings, telling you that the way that you feel is not okay. So that's a massive lie, another lie that narcissists want you to believe. The next lie that narcissists want you to believe is, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it. They are never sorry, and they always mean it. So it's a, faux apology. I call them narcissist faux apologies. They will usually not apologize for their behavior. But if they do apologize for their behavior, it's only because they're trying to manipulate you into something else. Remember, everything that a narcissist does is a manipulation. So if they do apologize, it's because they are trying to future fake you. They're trying to get you to do something. They're, not going to ever undo that behavior that they did. They will definitely do it again in the future. So whatever it is that they did, let's say they called you a name, they will definitely call you that name again in the future. Let's say that they, whatever it is that they did, they cheated on you, I'm sorry, it won't happen again. They will definitely cheat on you again. So, they interrupted you when you were talking. Oh, that was horrible. I shouldn't have interrupted you. They will definitely interrupt you again when you're talking. So their apologies are completely meaningless, and you should, definitely take them with a grain of salt, because it's a lie that they want you to believe that's just crap, right? Narcissists are liars. That's what they are. Okay. The next lie that they want you to believe is that it's all your fault. For example, they might get fired from work, or that they have poor performance at work, or something like that. They will want you to believe that that's all your fault because you were, giving them lots of stress. And because of so much stress at home, they can't perform at work. And therefore, that's your fault because they're making lots and lots of mistakes at work or something like that. They aren't making the sales at work that they're supposed to be making. That's your fault. Anything that happens bad in their life, they'll say that it's your fault. They got super angry and did something that they weren't supposed to have done. Hit walls, drove too fast, whatever, got a speeding ticket. That's your fault. They will cheat on you and say that was your fault. I ended up having to cheat on you because you weren't a good spouse. If you had been nicer to me, if you had been more attentive to me, I wouldn't have cheated on you. So therefore, that's your fault. That's a lie that narcissists want you to believe. The truth is, had they had more integrity, had they been a better person, they wouldn't have needed to cheat on you. If you had just done what I wanted, I wouldn't have had to hit you. That is, again, a lie they want you to believe. The truth is, their behavior is their fault. They need to take responsibility for their own behavior, just as you have to take responsibility for your own behavior. Okay? It's a lie that narcissists want you to believe. The next lie that narcissists want you to believe is that you are being too sensitive. Again, narcissists will invalidate your feelings. They will tell you that you are being too sensitive. And by the way, they are ridiculously oversensitive. I mean, you can say something that's completely innocuous, and they'll say that you slighted them in some way, that you had some crazy tone. And I always joke that narcissists hear tones like dogs hear whistles. Like, even if there's no tone, they hear tone. And you think, I didn't have anything with tone. They'll tell you that you were shouting and you didn't even shout. And they'll say, you're delusional, you were shouting. They'll start shouting at you and you'll say, please don't raise your voice. And they'll say, I was just matching your tone and you didn't shout ever at all. But, you can't ever shout. They'll tell you you're being too sensitive when they're the ones who are ridiculously sensitive. When they said something that was horrible to you, like you have a massively huge behind or something, and you'll say, please don't say that. And you'll say, oh, it was just a joke. Stop being so sensitive. It was just a joke. Ha, 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 ha. They add like ha to the end of a sentence, and that's supposed to be funny. You can't take a joke. Come on. And, I've actually heard teenage girls with their boyfriends say things like, oh, that's just a joke that we have between us. They'll actually, go along with it and say that it's okay. Don't do that. Don't say that it's okay. Don't gaslight yourself. Those are red flags. These are lies that narcissists want you to believe. If it's hurtful, then it's hurtful. It's not okay if you're being disrespected, okay? You're not being too sensitive. They are being hurtful. So don't allow your feelings to be invalidated. Jokes at your expense are not funny. When they say you're too sensitive, that's not true. Don't use jokes or things like that as an excuse to invalidate your feelings. And when they say things like, oh, my attempt at humor, I'm sorry for my attempt at humor or something like that. That's not an apology. That's not an apology. An apology is, I shouldn't have said that. That was disrespectful, period. So you're being too sensitive is a lie that narcissists want you to believe. If you agree with me, put liars in the comments right now. Liars. They are liars. These are lies that narcissists want you to believe. Right? Lies that narcissists want you to believe. All right. So the next lie that narcissists want you to believe is that you are imagining things. So huge. So huge. I actually had a client in my law practice watch her husband. She followed her husband with a woman all the way to a hotel, go into the hotel. They stayed in the hotel for a couple of hours. She sat in the car, watched her husband and the woman come out of the hotel, told the husband that she saw the woman and him go into the hotel, stay in the hotel, go out of the hotel. And then the husband said, you're imagining things. That didn't happen. That they did go in there, but they didn't do anything in the hotel but talk. That's all they did was talk while they sat in the hotel room. And she said, okay, that she believed him. I'm telling you that is a massive gaslight. And these are lies that narcissists want you to believe. You're imagining things. That didn't happen. You're mistaken. I would never do that. The narcissist gaslights you into doubting your own reality. That's what they do. So, and when it happens over and over and over again, you start to believe these things. You start to believe that you're crazy. And I think that you have to just start remembering, you have to start to push back on yourself and go, no, that is not true. That is, your reality is different than mine. We see things differently. That is not how it happened. That is not what I'm seeing. All right. So that is another common lie that narcissists want you to believe. You're imagining things. Another lie that narcissists want you to believe is it's not a big deal. It is not a big deal. The narcissist will try to downplay the severity of their hurtful behavior by telling you that things are not a big deal. They might say something like, it's not a big deal if I cheat on you because I love you. The other person didn't mean anything to me. You're the one that means everything to me. The other one, it was just sex. You are the one that I love. So it's not a big deal. It is a big deal. It is a big deal. And that's a lie that they want you to believe. Oh, you know what? It's not a big deal if, I made a big mistake at work. We lost some money. It's not a big deal because I can get it back. You know what? It is a big deal because it's an integrity issue. They get you to not focus on what is the problem. These are lies that they want you to believe. And they don't want you to see the truth. The truth is that their behavior is not acceptable. That's the truth. So it is a big deal. So these are lies that the narcissist wants you to believe. And the last one is the biggest one and the most important one here. And that is the final lie, the biggest, the hairiest, the scariest lie that the narcissist wants you to believe. And this is the one when you're trying to leave, you're trying to get out the door, you're trying to discard, you're trying to finally escape. Your hair is on fire. You're like in survival mode. It's like, let me get out of here. And that is, the narcissist will say, I'll change. I can change. You'll see. It will all be different. That is a massive lie. It is a future fake. They will promise. They will promise to do anything. They will promise to be better in the future. You'll see. I know I've been acting this way. You'll see the better version, and they'll be better for a little while, which tells you, by the way, that they know how they're supposed to be. They know how they're supposed to act. They know that their behavior is wrong, but it won't last. It'll only last for a little short period of time, and then it'll start to come back. They will never keep their promises. They will start acting the way that they were before, only it'll be worse. It'll end up being worse. And it will be, so much more heinous than it ever was in the past. The narcissists aren't capable of change, and it's going to end up being spiraling. So know that narcissists can't change. That is the worst lie of all. The worst lie of all. Now, let's talk about word salad. What the heck is a word salad? Narcissists use a variety of things to deflect anything off of themselves and make sure that the other person thinks that they're crazy. They use gaslighting and all sorts of other techniques in order to maintain control over their victims or their targets. So when you are in a relationship with a narcissist, you're going to be dealing with word salad. And I've actually heard some of my clients and my subscribers and the people in my community have talked about how their brains end up feeling like scrambled eggs. It really is in a form of emotional abuse. It's a form of how they traumatize their victims. And it can leave you feeling very confused and very you're powerless and paralyzed. So, before I talk about word salad, let me just give you a little bit of a basic. If you haven't watched any of my other videos before, I want to make sure that I give you some basics, which is that a narcissist has no inner sense of value. They have to get all of their value from the external. Something happened with them when they were a child. They feel, they have no self-esteem. They're actually extremely insecure, extremely fragile. And while all of us are on a continuum in some ways. I mean, in some ways, all of us have, what people would refer to as narcissistic traits, meaning, hey, we all want to feel seen, heard, and know that we matter. That is a universal feeling. If you are a human being, you have those feelings, and there is nothing wrong with those feelings. Of course, we matter, and of course, we need to feel whole and complete. The thing is, where you're dealing with a narcissist is where it becomes pathological, where it becomes they absolutely need to have it, they thrive on that, and it's so far gone on the continuum that they just have completely lacked any ability to care about another person. A lot of times people think, oh, that person says that they're so great, they have to be a narcissist. Well, you're forgetting about the second half of that, which is not only do they think that they're great, which is nothing wrong with that, right? But they completely lack any ability to have any feelings or care or empathy for another person. They may know what to do to pretend. And when they're love bombing, they're in that. And they do long for connection, but they just are so pathologically ill in a lot of ways. I mean, they're mentally ill. They cannot cross that bridge. So they feel that they have to manipulate the world in order to get what they want. And so they use a variety of tools they have a whole little tool chest that they go to manipulate the world and to gaslight people and to just to continue to maintain control. In other words, they just don't feel inside that anybody will actually ever love them or be with them unless they are manipulating the situation. It's actually quite sad, but you empath, yeah, I'm talking to you, you cannot fix them, and the emotional abuse will not stop. They really can't be rehabilitated other than to, and I've talked to psychologists about this, and I do highly recommend that you watch some of my other videos, like with Dr. Romani, and specifically my interviews with Dr. Romani and Tina Swithin in One Mom's Battle, how to represent yourself in court. Dr. Romani actually talks about if they can be rehabilitated, and basically she talks about how they can learn how to behave sometimes. Like she has actually had a few narcissists as patients, and she's been able to get them to a point of being able to kind of pretend like they care enough about people or go through the motions or act the right way, but they don't actually ever come to a point of truly caring, because there's something within themselves that's like broken. It's like wishing somebody could grow an arm back if their arm has been amputated or something for some reason. So it's just some things are just not possible. So as part of their world of manipulation, they use something called word salad. And in the narcissism world, that basically means that they talk in a way that's like circular conversation. That's one of the things. You think something is settled, and then they come back as if it hasn't been settled, and there they bring it up again. And you're thinking, wait a minute, I thought we had done that conversation. Why are you bringing that up again? Something like that. So, you'll provide an explanation for something. For example, why were you late? And you say, I was late because I was taking care of my sister. And then you have some big fight about it or whatever, but you prove it, you show I was late because I was taking care of my sister, blah, blah, blah. And then like 5 minutes later, they come back, why were you late? I can't believe that you were late. I can't believe you did this to me. And you think, didn't we just have this conversation? I thought we had this conversation. But there you are having it again, and they're just trying to like force it out of you again, and it's just a way of trying to make you feel bad or feel guilty or give them attention and show you how horrible you were for disrespecting them and not showing up when you were supposed to, and that sort of thing. So circular conversation is one of their favorite little word salad techniques. Another technique that they use for word salad is just a complete lack of logic. So for example, if they'll accuse you of cheating. You were at lunch with your mother and your sister, and they'll say, I know that you were cheating, and you're sitting there defending yourself thinking, what the heck are you talking about? I was at lunch with my mother and my sister. You know that I was texting you the whole time. I sent you pictures of myself there. I mean, and even if you didn't do that, you know that that's where you were, and you're just like the person who would never cheat. But yet here they are like saying, well, you're obviously a cheater. Look at what you're wearing. And you're looking at yourself going, I'm wearing jeans and a t-shirt. Like, what you're saying has absolutely no logic whatsoever. It makes no sense. But here you are defending yourself like there's something wrong with you. And it's just this utter verbal chaos of like you're in the twilight zone. So that's number 2, is just a complete lack of logic. And another version of word salad is, your typical garden variety gaslighting. And if you want to know more about gaslighting, you should definitely check out my video on gaslighting techniques. But basically it's saying things to make you think that you're crazy. They'll say, I'm going to go away for the weekend with my friends. And you'll say, oh, when are you doing that? And they'll say, oh, we talked about that and you agreed. Don't you remember? And you're sitting there thinking, no, we never had that conversation. Like, where did that come from? But when they do that over and over and over again, you really do start to question your own mind. You start to question your own sanity. You start to think, well, maybe we did have that conversation, because they'll do it to you over and over and over again so many times that you think, well, I don't know, maybe I am the one that's crazy. And what happens with this whole word salad thing is it really just eats away at your self-esteem, and it eats away at your sense of self, so much so that you really start to question everything about yourself, and you start to really believe, and you've been so traumatized that you start to really believe that, gosh, if I were just more perfect, if I were just better, if I just tried harder, if I just were more careful with my words, if I just checked in with him more and showed him or her how often I, where I was, I can prove to this person, I don't want to say him or her, obviously there's narcissists in all genders. You just start to believe, like, it's me. It's definitely me. There's something wrong with me. And they really want you to believe that, until something in your little soul, and I always refer to the Maya Angelou, I know why the caged bird sings, because that caged bird is your soul. And when people end up in my office as an attorney and they're ready to get divorced, or I'm on a coaching call with somebody who's dealing with a narcissistic business partner, or somebody who wants to talk with me about figuring out a way or a strategy or leverage with dealing with narcissists, they start to, really see that, like, this is a soul decision. I call it a soul decision. Your soul knows that something is deeply wrong. Your soul knows that it's time to sing it. Your soul knows it's time to be free. And so slowly but surely you get that little glimpse of light. And that's when you start watching videos like mine, or many of the others of us who are in this space that, I've collaborated with, such as Dr. Ramani, Tina Swithin, Tracy Malone, Kim Saeed, Melanie Tanya Evans. All of us are in this space working for you to, you get that glimmer of light, your soul gets that glimmer of light, and you go, oh my God, this is me. This is what's happening. And you start gathering information and you start getting stronger and stronger and stronger. And that's why I do what I do. So I am so glad you're here, because today I'm going to be sharing with you 8 phrases that narcissists use to manipulate you, so that when you see it coming, you'll be able to spot it. You'll be able to turn it around. You're going to be able to start looking at it almost like as a third party and go, okay, got it. Now I see what you're up to. Now I see what you're trying to do. And by the way, because you're saying these things, I know that you're a narcissist. All right, so let's dive in. The first one is they'll say something like, I guess I'm a bad person. You know, you're trying to make a point about something. You're pointing out something like they didn't do something that they said they were going to do, or they did something that they shouldn't have. And you're just trying to get them to take responsibility. You're trying to have a conversation with them. And what they try to do then is they just become the victim. Oh, I guess I'm just a bad person. You're just attacking me. I guess I should just die. I should, and instead of now having a conversation, you're the one who's attacking them. You should feel bad, especially if they're a covert narcissist. Then you might see tears starting to flow, something like that. If you want to know more about the covert passive aggressive narcissist, definitely check out my video on the covert passive aggressive narcissist. And I also have one on covert narcissists in relationships, because I really detest covert narcissists because I had to deal with a couple of them in my own life. But the very first thing that they say is, I guess I'm a bad person. They shift it around. They make themselves the victim. All right. So that's number one. Number 2 is, do I still matter? Now we're not talking about the issue at hand. It's again, they're turning it around. They don't want to have to take responsibility for whatever it is that they should have done or didn't do, or did do and shouldn't have, or whatever it is. Or whatever it is that they said. Maybe you're hurt, maybe you're upset about something. They don't want to have to be responsible for that. They don't want to have that light shining on themselves. So they will do whatever they need to get that off of themselves and move it to a different direction. And so another thing they'll say is, do I still matter? Doesn't the relationship matter to you? Why are you doing this? Why are you bringing this up now? What is it that you need to do now about this? And instead of actually addressing the issue, it becomes all about all of that stuff. However they can create noise around it, that's what they will do. Okay, so then the next one is, if that's the way you feel, in other words, like kind of diminishing your feelings, diminishing whatever it is that you're bringing up to them. I guess so, if that's the way you feel about it. And it might even be like in a mocking tone. It might be in a sarcastic tone. They're definitely letting you know that whatever it is that you're deciding to do is probably a terrible idea. They're very judgmental about it. They want you to feel bad about whatever it is that you're deciding to do, if that's the way you feel. Okay. So, all right. The next one is, if you loved me, then if you love me, then you won't do this. If you love me, then you will do this. If it's in a business setting, if you valued the relationship, if you value working with me, then you wouldn't say this, you wouldn't do this, or you would do this, whatever it is that you want them to do. So that's another way of getting them to, or getting you to be manipulated by them. And if you have totally seen this before, give me an amen in the comments. Okay, so the next one is, you don't trust me. Again, this is a manipulation. They're doing something that you definitely don't trust them. And they're like, oh, you don't trust me. They're trying to make you feel bad. They're trying to make you feel guilty for not trusting them. How could you question them? They've always been there for you. They've always been by your side. Have they ever let you down? And of course you're thinking, yeah, you have. And yeah, I don't trust you. But, then they start playing on your emotions. They start playing on your feelings. And especially if you're an empath or you're an empathic person, it's really, really hard to stand back up to that. And if you want to know more about that symbiotic relationship between the narcissists and the empaths, definitely check out my video on that topic, because there is definitely sort of this, lethal attraction that goes on there between narcissists and empaths. But anyway, that's the next one. You don't trust me. All right. So the next one is, I've never seen anything this bad before. I've never seen anyone do anything like this before. Trying to make you feel like you're the only one who's ever asked this, done this, said this, whatever it is. And if you want to know more about that, definitely check out my video on narcissists' favorite sayings. But that is something that they do as well, to try to manipulate you. I've never seen this. I've never done this. I've never seen anyone, blah, blah, blah. Okay, the next one is we talked about. This is a really, really famous one. It's a gaslighting type of a phrase that a lot of covert narcissists especially use. We talked about that. Don't you remember? You agreed. And you never had that conversation before, you never agreed to anything, but after a while they prey on your sanity, and then you start to question your sanity. Well, maybe we did talk about that. I don't even remember now, but that's what they do. That's how they manipulate and eventually, because they've messed with your mind so much, they start to have power and control over you. But once you start to see it and you start to notice it, then it'll stop, and you'll start to realize what's actually going on, and you're waking up, because that's why you're here, right? Okay. And the last one is, I would never, trying to shame you. I would never do this. I would never say that. I would never let you down like that. I would never accuse you of anything. I would never talk to my friends about you. All those sorts of things, even though they definitely would. But that's one of the things that they say is, I would never. So that's one of the other manipulation phrases that narcissists use. They love to manipulate. And so what do you have to do in response? You have to ethically manipulate the manipulator right back. And that's what I teach you how to do